Hey everyone, welcome to the Dinesh D'Souza podcast. Obviously, I'm not Dinesh D'Souza. He is out today. My name is Chad Prather. I am the host of the Chad Prather Show as well as the Dear America podcast. And hopefully you'll allow me to hang out with you a few minutes. We have a problem in the things that we call red states. And I want to talk to you today with a special guest about the myth of the red state. We'll talk about what happened with the Supreme Court elections last night in Wisconsin, as well as the direction that it seems our country is heading. Yes, Democrats seem to have a 21% approval rating, but that's not the tendency that's showing up in these state elections as demonstrated last night in Wisconsin. We're going to talk about the idea that justice and our court systems are becoming more and more fraudulent and rogue. We will get in that today on the Dinesh D'Souza podcast.
America needs this voice. The times are crazy. In a time of confusion, division, and lies, we need a brave voice of reason, understanding, and truth. This is the Dinesh D'Souza podcast.
Hey folks, I'm Chad Prather, filling in for Dinesh D'Souza. This is the Dinesh D'Souza podcast. I am so thankful for Dinesh and Debbie for allowing me the opportunity to use my voice and lend me his audience today in his absence. We don't take that lightly, and we want to be good stewards with this time that we have together. So hopefully you will hang with us for a little while. If you're watching by way of Rumble or YouTube or listening by way of Spotify, Apple Podcast, thank you for doing that. If you are listening, please go and leave a rating and a review for the Dinesh D'Souza podcast. 5 stars. I think Dinesh deserves 5 stars. I may not. I am the anti-Dinesh D'Souza. We believe the same way, but you can tell by looking at me, I'm not Dinesh. We're going to have fun today, and I've got a very special guest. I want to talk to you just for a minute about something that has disturbed me now for a number of years, and that is this idea that we all live in in Texas or Florida or some of these places through the Midwest or even Oklahoma that we're living in a red state. Oklahoma might be the only state that could truly defend its conservative red position because they consistently in every county vote red. But do we truly have red states anymore? I want to talk about that. Yes, the Democratic Party is rating at a incredibly low poll number of 21%. The people that have a high favorability of the Democrat Party ranks only 7%. But yet we saw last night when a leftist justice won the Supreme Court position in the state of Wisconsin. How is it that Donald Trump can overwhelmingly win both the popular and the electoral vote in a national election, but yet we still see local, municipal, and state elections typically go blue in big cities? We will break that down for you today. And I want to remind everyone that we are a country that's built on its institutions. Unfortunately, in recent years, we have seen a lot of our faith eroded in those institutions, whether it's our education or we saw through the COVID pandemic, we saw an erosion of our trust in doctors, in big medicine, and particularly big pharma. Not sure many of us ever had a whole lot of faith there, but we lost our faith in our election process, and we've lost our faith in so many of the big institutions that have been something that we've looked to as something that's been a stabilizing factor as people who value the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and what America has been built on. And I said a number of years ago that one of the things that I felt like we could still have some semblance of faith in was our justice system. We saw a Supreme Court that still held a Republican or a conservative majority. Now we don't know which way Chief Justice John Roberts or Justice Amy Coney Barrett which direction they're going to go. They're very lukewarm, very wishy-washy, a lot of times on the fence. And so can we trust in the decisions of the Supreme Court to uphold our conservative values? I could tell you one thing: we don't hear Democrats right now calling for the executive branch or even the legislative branch, as we hold a razor-thin margin in the Senate and the House as Republicans, to pack the Supreme Court. That call and cry has gone deathly silent. Interesting concept there, but we're seeing an onslaught of rogue judges, both in the federal courts and the district courts, that are standing against many of the executive orders. The things that you voted for, the things that you believe in, whether it is closing the border and national security or the deportation of illegals from our country. And there are those that would not only stand in the way, but there are Democrat lawmakers who are actually calling for the return of illegals that have been deported from our country. Common sense, folks, is not winning out right now. And we are seeing progressive leftist activist judges that are going to stand in the way at every twist and turn of what this country voted for in the 2024 election. Is it going to dissuade us? Is it going to cause us to have Is it going to cause us to have a change of direction in terms of what the Trump administration is able to get done? Do we lose faith? Let me just tell you, I think that America, although we may be headed in many ways in a wrong direction, that it has a lot of individuals with the right values. And so I want to encourage you to hold on to those values. Hold on to those foundational things that have made you believe the way that you have. Now, we've lost trust in so many of these institutions, including the justice system in our country, because we've allowed government to get big and out of control. It has become one large blob that rolls through our lives, consuming everything that it touches. Big government is something that, as conservatives and even libertarians, we've claimed to be against. But how dependent have we all become on this big government system? Now, what we're seeing with things such as Doge and the appointments of Elon Musk and even in the Maha movement is men who have been appointed to come in and reduce the size of fraud and waste and even expenditure on employees that are literally not doing their job. They can't even answer an email that requires 5 bullet points that tells you something that they did last week just to prove that they're even alive, much less on the payroll. So this reduction of government is causing this reduction of bureaucracy is causing a huge outcry amongst those on the left, saying that this is overreach, that this is something that should not be happening. How dare we have a billionaire as a spokesperson who is in this much control? Forget the fact that George and Alex Soros have been actively involved in spending their money to raise up voices to speak on behalf of the progressive left. We are looking to limit the size of government. Can we shrink the size of government at this stage? I don't know. We have roughly 4 million unelected bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. that are determining our every move, from policy and lobbyists that are padding the pockets of our politicians with expensive dinners and great donations that sway their opinions. And just yesterday, we found out that for some reason, in the face of many decisions that need to be made, our Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, a avowed Republican, declared an end to the week. This is Joe Biden type stuff. When you put a lid on the day at 3 in the afternoon, he gave Congress the rest of the week off on a Tuesday when things need to be taken care of. What are we doing here, folks? No wonder we've lost faith in just about every branch of government, every institution, every bureaucracy that's out there. And when we try to limit that, we see even conservatives getting upset. Even conservatives, quote unquote conservatives, that are agitated by the process of what's happening. At the end of the day, I think that we have to bring what's happening on the federal level back down to the local and even state level. That's why I think it is important that we understand this idea of red versus blue states. What truly exists? What direction are our states and municipalities going? And is there any salvation for us as individuals? Let's face it, Donald Trump's not coming to dinner at my house. He might go to dinner at Dinesh's house, but he's not coming to Chad Prather's house. What do we do? How do we make the changes that we can control so that we can regain some trust in not only the institutions, but the direction that our country is going? How do we become less dependent on a big federal, over-bloated, spending, wasteful, abusive federal government? What can you and I, as John Q. citizen of the United States, what can we do? I want to talk about that today. There's so many things that we need to get into, but before we do that, I want to remind you, we've lost the ideas that have made our country great. the founding principles, the common sense, the critical thought. It's no longer being taught. Instead, it's been exchanged for ideologies and agenda-driven narratives and false realities of postmodernism that have taught us that feelings and opinions are far more important than facts and truth. Until we return to that, we're not going to see anything change in our country. And so I want to encourage the patriots out there, those of you who claim to believe in not only our Constitution, but our Bill of Rights, and you stand staunchly by them. Listen, encourage yourself right now in the truth, not in your feelings, and let's let that truth win out. Because I believe that if we proceed with wisdom, we can take back these institutions. We can take back the direction of our government, both on the state, the local, and even, yes, inside the Beltway of Washington, D.C. on the federal level. It's going to take a lot of common sense, but it's going to take a lot of boldness in standing in the truth. We're going to talk about that today. If you are listening by way of audio, whether it's on Apple or on Spotify or wherever you get your podcast, I want you to go leave that 5-star rating and leave that positive review for the Dinesh D'Souza podcast. We have so much fun. We're going to have a great conversation with my very special guest. She is the host of Blaze TV's Sarah Gonzalez Unfiltered. Of course, it is Sarah Gonzalez. She is unfiltered and unapologetic. And if you've ever followed me and her for any length of time, you know our relationship. And so these conversations today are going to get spicy. Stay with us.
Tariff wars, recession fears, stubborn inflation. In this strange environment, gold has been routinely hitting all-time highs. In volatile markets like right now, don't sit on the sidelines with your head in the sand. Take control, safeguard your savings. And this is why so many Americans today are turning to Birch Gold Group like Debbie and I have. They've helped tens of thousands convert an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in physical gold. Is it time for you to find out if you can hedge against inflation and economic instability with gold? To learn how to own physical gold in a tax-sheltered account, text Dinesh to 989898. Birch Gold will send you a free, no-obligation information kit. Again, text my name Dinesh to the number 989898. Birch Gold has an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. Countless 5-star reviews. I count on Birch Gold to help me protect my savings with gold, and you can too. Text Dinesh to 989898 today.
Hey guys, welcome back. This is the Dinesh D'Souza podcast. Obviously, I am not Dinesh D'Souza. Chad Prather filling in for Dinesh, thankfully and humbly so. I want to share an opportunity with you guys to you didn't ask for this, but I'm going to just let you dive into one of my relationships that I have with one of my best friends, one of the greatest human beings I believe exists on the planet. But she's special not just because I love her so much. She's special because she has her finger on the pulse of not only what's going on in American politics and state politics right here in the state of Texas, but she's got her finger on the pulse of culture. And she knows what's happening in society, and she knows how to sort of read the tea leaves. And if she doesn't feel any pressure yet, then I haven't done my job, because we're going to put her on the spot with a few different things. She's the host of Blaze TV's Sarah Gonzalez Unfiltered. Welcome to the show, Sarah Gonzalez. Sarah, how are you?
Thank you. I'm great. I'm great, Chad. And I am actually Sarah Gonzalez, whereas you are not Dinesh D'Souza. So
You are. We both put a little bit of tan on today.
Yes.
I just did it so I'd have some color in my winterized face.
Mhm.
It was so funny. You made a post the other day because you sat down, and we'll talk about this. You were at the White House the other day. You had some great interviews that came out with some of the cabinet members, and I want you to fill me in on that. And our friend Jesse Kelly was so funny. Under there, he said, "We're going to call ICE on you, being Gonzalez." He stole my thunder on the joke, and it was funny. I'll leave it to Jesse Kelly to come up with something like that. Sarah, you've been at the Blaze now for, let me guess, 7 years?
Yes. Yeah. Good job. Good guess. That's exactly right.
I know you, girl.
You do.
I know you. Yeah. I love you so much, and I appreciate everything you do, both as my friend but as a voice. I mean, just looking from the outside in when I have the opportunity, I have so much respect for what you do. I really do. I tell you this on a personal level, but let me say it publicly. And also let me say, I know that you've been looking forward to be on the Dinesh D'Souza podcast, but probably wanted to be with Dinesh. And You're back with me, so
Yeah.
maybe Debbie and Dinesh
Well,
will bring you back.
yeah,
in. I bet
maybe
they
you're
will.
my in. Maybe you're my in. So once
Yeah.
Dinesh sees this, he'll invite me back on to be with him.
Well, Dinesh has been on your show,
Yes.
you know. So, but you know, anyway, I love it. Thank you for joining me. Tell me a little bit about your history, how you got, because you come at this thing from a different angle, right? You're a mom and a real person. You're not one of these cookie cutter, quote, talking head journalists. Sarah Gonzalez Unfiltered, the name should say it all. Tell me your angle at approaching society, culture, politics, the news.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's really simple, right? As a mom, I was sitting here watching my children grow up in a world where the left has completely infiltrated every institution that they've needed to infiltrate in order to change and influence culture. I mean, you see it in the education system, not just in our public schools, you know, here locally where our children go through K through 12, but also, of course, the higher education system. So you're watching them influence education, infiltrate in the education system. You're watching them infiltrate in all of these, you know, in big pharma, in the medical industry. You're watching them infiltrate in all of these different industries, and their influence matters. And so we're watching them, you know, the right for so long was like, well, live and let live. I just want to go home to my family. I just want to, you know, the government to leave me alone, and I'm going to do the same to everyone else. But that's not how the left operates. And so you're playing a game in which the other side is not playing by the same rules. And we've seen the change in culture. We've seen the shift. I mean, I don't have to tell you, Chad. I know Dinesh's audience knows where we're at a place where we actually had this last election. The argument was, we shouldn't be chopping healthy body parts off of children.
Right.
We shouldn't be allowing men to dominate in women's sports, putting women at risk because, of course, it is dangerous for women. We shouldn't be allowing illegal strangers to flood into our country who are killing and harming innocent Americans. I mean, the grasp that they've had on this culture, that they were able to shift it for so long, was because we were asleep at the wheel. And so just watching this as just I'm a regular person, right? Just watching this as a regular person, I'm watching it happen around us. And I'm like, my kids cannot grow up in a world like that. So obviously it's good that we won the election, but I mean, that's just kind of how I stumbled into this, was just raising children and being hyper aware of the society in which I was raising them, and watching how it was being taken over by the radical left.
So Charlie Kirk did a great summary on X with a post about last night's Wisconsin loss in that Supreme Court race. And to your point, he said, we got to realize and appreciate that we're a low prop party now, talking about the Republicans. He said the party has been remade. Special elections and off-cycle elections will continue to be a problem without a change of strategy. We're the party of welders and waiters and plumbers. We're the people that work with our hands. We shower before and after work. Politics is an afterthought. He said they have common sense and the American values, but they're voters that have to be chased. We see that in people like Scott Pressler, who literally almost single-handedly with his activism and his hard work flipped the state of Pennsylvania. That's a great point that Charlie makes. But he says Democrats have become the college-indoctrinated, institutionalized, and government-dependent high-prop party. They live for politics. It is their religion. You and I here in the state of Texas have seen numerous people who have moved from California, who have come here with the express purpose of moving into small communities so they can get on the school board. Mm-hmm. And yet we live with our head in the sands, and only a small percentage of Republicans right here in a state like Texas, which considers itself conservative and red, they don't show up for primary elections.
Right.
So you're right on that there are so many people who aren't doing anything. And here comes this spicy Latina, Sarah Gonzalez. There's other names that people have called you. Would you consider yourself, because you not only have Sarah Gonzalez Unfiltered, but you also with Texas Family Project and the numerous works that you've done there, like your podcast, Come and Take It, but you've infiltrated the drag queen story hours. You have infiltrated the drag shows. You've exposed the fact that children have been present in these things. You've exposed so much that's happening in the Texas State House. Would you consider yourself more of a journalist or an activist?
That's a great question. I definitely would not consider myself a journalist. Now, don't get me wrong, no disrespect to journalists on our side, But I feel like the term journalist kind of has a negative connotation associated with it at this point, because the people on CNN and MSNBC would consider themselves journalists when really, I mean, they're only spewing one-sided garbage. And so I just want to be real with everyone. I am an activist, right? I don't consider myself to be a reporter, an independent reporter, or anything like that. I am out to influence culture. I am out to make this country a better place for my children. And I am out to expose darkness. And, you know, especially with all these, you mentioned the drag shows. I mean, it's very simple. People would not believe what the left is able to do unless you put it in front of their eyes. And once they see it, they can't unsee it. And once they see it, they generally want to help and will maybe be pushed to do something and get active. So I really don't consider myself a journalist. I think it's funny when people refer to me as one. I'm like, I'm really not. I am an activist. I make, I am not hiding the fact at all that I am very conservative and I want my children to grow up in a very conservative country. And I will do whatever I need to do to make sure that that happens to the best of my ability.
You heard it here, folks, on the Dinesh D'Souza podcast. Sarah Gonzalez has an agenda, and I like it. You've been in Washington, D.C. a few times here in recent weeks. I think your trip before last, you did bring the goods, and we're going to go to break here in about a minute, but you went to a anti-deportation rally / protest, and I always laugh at the left on the X. They said, well, provide a link, show us. You're literally showing them themselves. You're holding up a mirror in the face of the progressive, crazy left. What was did you ever, in all of that protest, because you ask a lot of questions there, you got a lot of pushback, did anyone give you a critical thought answer as to why they were there? What kind of feedback did you get from the protesters that were illegal?
No, of course I didn't get any sort of critical thinking answers from them. They don't have two brain cells to rub together. They are useful idiots that the left has used and manipulated in order to make this, ground game look bigger than it is. I mean, these people were just absolutely mind-numbingly stupid, a product of the public education system in some cases as well. So, I mean, no, and when you challenge them with actual critical thinking, it's like you see the tick. You see the hamster on the wheel in there, like banging on the wheel at this point. There's not a lot going on up there. So, of course, there wasn't.
No, the hamster's just dead, just going around and around and around. It really is interesting. I saw someone interviewed a person that was protesting Elon Musk on the street and holding a Ukraine flag with an anti-Elon message. And he said, you do know that Elon provided the Starlinks for war-torn Ukraine years ago. And she said, I don't think he did that. And they go, no, he literally did that. He said, she said, did he take them back? He's like, no, they're still there. It's so anyway, that's the kind of craziness we're dealing with. We're going to take a quick little break. We're with Sarah Gonzalez, the host of Blaze TV's Sarah Gonzalez Unfiltered. I'm Chad Prather, filling in for Dinesh D'Souza. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Numbers don't lie. The impact that Balance of Nature makes every single day is astounding. You can see the numbers for yourself on their website. Go to balanceofnature.com. Listen to a few stats concerning Balance of Nature's worldwide success. More than 1,000 success stories reported each month. Hundreds of thousands of customers worldwide. Millions of orders delivered each year, and billions, yes, billions of these. This is fruits and veggies in a capsule, fruit and veggie supplements consumed by people who have decided to start living and feeling better. Now, there's only one number missing here, and that's you. Do what I did. Add yourself to these numbers. Start taking Balance of Nature's whole food supplements like so many others around the world. And here's another number that should get your attention. 35%. Use my discount code AMERICA. You get 35% off plus free shipping and their money-back guarantee. Call 800-246-8751. That's 800-246-8751. Or go to balanceofnature.com. When you use discount code AMERICA, you get 35% off plus free shipping. MyPillow is excited to announce they are extending the mega sale on overstock, on clearance, also on brand new products. This is your chance to grab some incredible deals on some of MyPillow's most popular and newly released items. For example, save $40 on the new spring MyPillow bed sheets, available in any size and any color. Debbie and I use these. We love them. The luxurious sheets are designed for maximum comfort and breathability, perfect for a great night's sleep. Looking for a meaningful gift? Save 30% on the brand new My Crosses, inspired by the one Mike Lindell has worn every day for over 20 years. These beautifully crafted crosses come in both men's and women's designs and are proudly made in the USA. Get the 6-piece bath or kitchen towel sets, just $39.98. Initial quantities are low, so don't wait. And don't forget the best-selling standard My Pillow, now just $17.98. Plus orders over $75 ship free. Call 800-876-0227. Again, that's 800-876-0227, or go to mypillow.com. Make sure to use the promo code. It's DINESH, Dinesh.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Dinesh D'Souza podcast. I'm Chad Prather, filling in for Dinesh. You're like, whoa, is this guy in a dirty cowboy hat? That's not even real dirt. We pay money to put this stuff on there. Don't you worry about it. Like we said in the last segment, I also am not a journalist, but I sure do have a lot of fun talking about the craziness and the insanity that is our society these days. Don't forget, folks, politics runs downstream from culture, and culture runs downstream from religion. And I unabashedly and unashamedly declare Jesus is Lord. Even over this country, man, and I'm thankful to the Lord for the opportunities He's given us to be able to use our voice and our platform to be able to speak out for common sense and truth. Somebody that does that on the regular every day on the Sarah Gonzalez Unfiltered program every evening at 7/6 Central on The Blaze. Sarah Gonzalez is with me. Sarah, you were just at the White House. Your White House visit went a little bit better in terms of a PR stance than mine went a few weeks ago. We don't have to get into that. I was not there for an Epstein binder at all. That kind of got dropped in my lap, and we got marched out in front of the press, and it was like, oh, there we are. People said, you're posing for pictures. I was like, we weren't posing. I wasn't posing for pictures. I was trying to hide behind the notebook. Get out of there.
Thrown to the wolves.
We really kind of were. Now, some of the folks out there, they sort of like that attention. I'm not necessarily wired that way. You are, though. You're wired that way. You like that stuff. Conservative influencers, podcasters, influencers turned politicians. Do you see sort of this trend where they're out there kind of trying to devour each other to see who comes out at the top of the heap? And I'm going to throw some names around. I'm not picking sides here, but just recent examples, whether it's Anna Paulina Luna with her vote by proxy deal. She's an influencer become politician. That's a political argument to be had. But then you got Laura Loomer, who goes with fangs bared after an Ashley St. Clair over the Elon Musk child support deal. All of these other online people who want to attack people like you, attack people like me. And you think, man, here I thought we were sort of kind of on the same side. It's fair to have a different opinion. Do you see this mob that's kind of taking over on the online platforms? Should we kind of reel that in on the personal level a little bit? What are your thoughts on that? Because I know you see it.
Yeah. Of course we should. I mean, look, there is it's really hard because even when we're winning, our side still finds something to bicker about, this in-party fighting. It's like, guys, we just won. There was a mandate in this entire country. President Trump won every swing state. We turned it around tremendously. Our country was on the precipice of not surviving. Potentially, my personal opinion, I don't know if you share it, but I mean, this was the election that could have irrevocably changed this country. So it's like we took this amazing win, and what have we done with it since? I mean, President Trump is out there getting things done. He's signing executive orders. He is doing things in record time. The man is a grandfather, and I'm like, I can't even keep up with everything that he's doing. So it's like the people who are in positions of power that we have put there, at least with President Trump and his administration, are doing things at record speed. But what have we been doing since then? We're bickering about, as you mentioned, we're bickering about Representative Anna Paulina Luna having a different opinion. I don't particularly share her opinion, but I also appreciate the great work that she has done, thus far. And so I can appreciate a genuine disagreement from time to time. But you have these people who are just trying to one-up each other in the movement rather than care about the actual agenda. And those are the people that I think that you have to be careful about. Now, I mean, Ashley St. Clair, of course, should be called out for what she is doing and the damage that she is doing to this movement. But I think we can do it in maybe a more productive way than has been done, rather than for clicks and for likes. But, I mean, to your point, Chad, there are certain politicians, there are certain lawmakers who don't want to do anything in Congress, don't want to actually pass laws, but they do want to have some hearing where they can clip out some, some slam that they gave the other side so they can post it on X for clicks and likes rather than actually influence policy. So it is really frustrating to see when there are those of us out there like you, like me, who are on the ground just trying to spread the message to actually get real change, to have people that are only in it for, these clicks and likes. It is pretty frustrating to see.
Yeah, but I do like it when Brandon Gill. I like it when Brandon Gill gets that clicks
so
and like,
good.
because he is so good. And I say
But
that
he is actually, he has put forth resolutions to rein in these rogue judges, to codify President Trump's plan at the border. I mean, he is trying to do all of those things rather than just using social media for influence. He's doing both, and he's masterful at it, but he needs help because he seems to be the only one interested in codifying all of these things. It's just him, and he's a freshman, so he can't do it all. He needs help.
Yeah, and he's doing a fantastic job. And
Yes.
that's me sucking up to the boss here. That's Dinesh's son-in-law. So I'm just saying.
It is.
He's
But
doing
I
a-
will say, he is my congressman, and I
He is
did
your
actively
congressman, and he's
campaign
my
for him.
friend, and
Yeah,
I'm
he's
thankful
amazing.
for both he and Danielle. They have a very strong platform and voice, and of course, him now in the Congress is doing a fantastic job. What he says has substance. He's a man who delivers the goods, and I like that. Let's talk about your visit to the White House. Talking about delivering the goods, you were there. You were invited by the White House to come in. Was that sort of set up like a podcast room where everybody kind of had a space and they did a rotational deal? How was that set up?
Yeah, so it really was. It was the Indian Treaty Room in the Eisenhower Building, and so it's it's a beautiful room. This big, beautiful room,
Yeah.
decorative tile all around the walls and the floor, marble, And so we had this room. And we just kind of all had our own little sections within the room. So I was sitting, Sage Steele was to my right, and Michael Knowles
Love
from
her.
the Daily Wire I do too,
Love him.
was to my left. I love they were all, I couldn't have asked for a better group of people to do this with. Dr. Drew was across the room from me. Natalie Winters from War Room was so we were all just kind of in this room with our own little space that we set up. Some people chose to use the tables. I said, I don't really want a table. It seems like I'd rather just sit next to you, sit across from you and have a conversation. So that's what we did whenever we went into this little podcast row area within the White House, which, by the way, was kind of they're dipping their toe in the water of how to best do this so that just,
Correct.
I mean, who would have thought that just me, or, I mean, you're a much bigger deal than me, Chad, but
Come on.
Sarah Gonzalez, little old Sarah Gonzalez, I'm just a girl from Texas who got to just go to the White House and interview cabinet secretaries, but they really are trying hard to create this new media space for people like you and me to be able to have a voice, to have a seat at the table. And it was just really, really amazing experience.
So you had an opportunity to sit down with a few people, Robert Kennedy Jr. and Linda McMahon, and some others. First of all, start with Linda McMahon. What did she have to say about this dissolution of the Department of Education?
It was so good to sit down with her. What an amazing woman. And she really wanted to hone in. And I'm so glad that she did. When I said, we talk about the dismantling of the Department of Education, what does that actually look like in practice? Because you can use the term dismantle. What does that actually mean? And she said, well, let me tell you what the Department of Education doesn't do, because everyone thinks they know what it does do. Let me tell you what it doesn't do, and went through all of the ways that the Department of Education, they don't choose curriculum. They don't have as much influence as these teachers unions would like for you to believe. They just are in charge of managing these funds and making sure that these funds are allocated correctly and are not, misappropriated. And so she did a very, very good job of explaining what reach they're supposed to have and what has gone wrong. And what I thought was so great of her to really get into was, when President Trump came to her, she said, I don't have really that much experience in education administration. And he said, good. That's what I don't need you. Look at the people. Look at all of the experts, the so-called experts who have been managing all of these things, mismanaging all of these bureaucracies. I don't want those people. I want someone who is a small business owner or a large business owner. Someone who understands how to run a business is going to be someone who is better suited to root out all of this bureaucracy and all of this redundancy. And so to hear her talk about that conversation with President Trump, in which she was like, I don't know if I'm your gal, and he's like, no, that's exactly what I'm looking for. And to see how much they have already done with that was it was a really, really great conversation that I had with her.
And burn it to the ground. That's my opinion.
Yes. Yes.
I'd say, again, this is all about this dismantling, if you will, to use that phrase, or this reduction of the size of bureaucracy in government. You're a crunchy mom. You're one of those that you're we won't get into the vaccine thing, but you're pretty outspoken on those deals. You're all about the health and stuff. How exciting was that to sit down with Bobby Kennedy?
It was a very full circle moment for me. One of the craziest moments of my life, thinking that someone who the better part of a decade has been one of my personal heroes and inspirations, I would actually have the honor of sitting down and talking to about making this country healthier again. It was the experience of a lifetime. I'm hoping it's the first of many.
Sure.
I feel like I was on my best behavior, so that maybe I can, maybe I can do
come back and be the spicy Latina. Yeah. Well, when I sat down with him there in the Roosevelt Room, just outside of the Oval Office a few weeks back, he said that, Biden's FDA and his nutritional, proposals, they're like 300, 400 pages long. He said, I want to get it down to 3. Do you think that's possible?
Absolutely. I think it's possible. And I think he is just the right man to do it. I mean, I talked to him about, Joe Biden within the Biden administration, in the 4 years that he tried his best to destroy this country, the budget went up, I believe he said 38% just in HHS. The staffing went up 17%. And as all of these, your money is tracking upwards, health outcomes were tracking downwards at the same time. So we were spending that much more money and bringing in that much more staff just to have worse health outcomes. I think someone like Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who we saw during his campaign, we saw with the shirt off, he's doing the pull-ups, and it's like, I'm going to trust this guy much more than I'm going to trust Dick Levine to tell us how we can become much more healthy. I talked to him about a new food pyramid, and I think that that's going to be the key to, trying to make Americans healthier again, is let's get a new food pyramid in here. Let's turn it upside down and, and really hone in on, rather than listening to all of this big food, the food industrial complex trying to sell their products more. Let's get someone in here that is interested in full transparency and actually doing these studies without conflict.
Yeah, I love that. And it's indicative of what's happening across the board with this cabinet. I'm excited about that. Quick break with Sarah Gonzalez. We'll be right back. Hey guys, Chad Prather filling in for Dinesh. I am sitting down with, it's the miracle of technology, with my very dear friend, Sarah Gonzalez of Blaze TV. Sarah, last night we saw something that is very telling. Now, the Democrats are polling at 21% approval rating. Those who would say that they are very high on the Democratic Party is ranking only 7%. But yet we saw a leftist judge receive the vote to be on the Wisconsin Supreme Court. That is after even Elon Musk came out speaking on behalf of the Republican candidate, the Republican justice, and put out like $25 million. So now X is abuzz with them saying, we beat the billionaire. Even Kamala Harris came out and said that we will not be controlled by unelected billionaires. Forget the fact that there's somebody like a George and Alex Soros out there who are controlling things. And I think it was Jake Tapper that went on CNN a while back and said, well, the difference is George Soros, while he may be funding things, crazy admission, is not out there speaking to the people. Alex Soros actually is. He's married to Huma Abedin, if you guys want to track that. But they're raising up a lot of voices out there. Wisconsin, I don't know that I'm necessarily surprised. We see that people, particularly conservatives, as we stated earlier in the show, that conservatives, we sometimes stick our head in the sand. We don't even know that there's a primary election happening. We don't know that there's a midterm. People just tend to forget, or they're blasé about the whole thing, and it's going to be fine. Wisconsin doesn't surprise me. Texas, on the other hand, we're seeing some wild and crazy things happening in the Texas State House right now. Walk me through, and again, this matters to everybody. I don't care where you are in America. If you're listening to this, what happens in Texas absolutely will affect you no matter what state you're in for numerous reasons. Talk to me a little bit about what's happening in the Texas State House, because there's this idea that Texas is this staunchly red state. It's not. We have, after the Dade Phelan debacle of him being the Speaker of the House, and now Dustin Burrows, who's there, who is further left as a, quote, Republican than Dade Phelan ever dreamed of being, we have Democrats who do not control the majority in the Texas State House who are they're letting leftists and Democrats, they're letting the Democrats run the show down there. To my point, we don't have red states anymore because we don't have red cities anymore. Texas is hanging on by a thin thread because we still have some big cities that may not be major cities. So whereas you have El Paso and Dallas and occasionally Fort Worth, but certainly Austin, San Antonio, and Houston that are the blueberries in the chili, we have the Lubbocks and the Amarillos and the Tylers and the Wacos. They kind of keep us afloat in a red state. Talk to me about what's going on in this House in the Texas House, and a shout out to Texas Representative Brian Harrison for exposing so many things on X. Everyone needs to be following him to see what's really going on. What's indicative of what's happening here in Texas, and how's it indicative of what I think is happening in a lot of state houses across the country?
Yeah, I would agree with that, Chad. I want to give you, I think, the overall problem, and then let's get into what has actually been happening. The overall problem is that too many people here, not just here in the state of Texas, but in this country, focus way too much on federal elections, focus way too much on who is president, and not enough on local elections. And so what happens is that these people who run as a Republican aren't actually very Republican, but they know in the state of Texas, the general election voter will go out and vote for whoever the Republican is on the ticket. And they won't pay attention to the primaries because primary turnout is disastrously low, not just here in the state of Texas, but across the country. And so American voters need to understand that local is going to affect your daily life way more than who is president, and get involved and know who you're voting for. Chad, I had so many people come up to me when I was working as an activist again at the poll locations, trying to get my guy, Representative Mitch Little, in, who, spoiler alert, he did get in. And so, I'm at the primary ballot box. I'm there. I'm trying to talk to people as they are going in, and they're walking into a primary election telling me, don't worry, we're voting straight Republican. And I'm like, no, that's not what this is. Please let me tell you about Mitch Little and why he's running, so that you don't vote for the wrong Republican. So there are not enough people who are educated about what the process is before they go into the ballot box and cast their vote. And so what ends up happening is what's happening here in Texas this session. You have people like Representative Dustin Burrows, who was elected in the Texas House by a majority of Democrats. That's exactly how that happened. The Republicans, the actual conservative Republicans here in the state of Texas, had someone else better suited to actually govern the Texas House. They went with their guy, and instead of following protocol in the Republican caucus, Dustin Burrows and about 31 other Republicans decided to break ranks, go to the House floor, get a full vote, and get elected by a majority of Democrats. And so what they have been doing since then is they have been allowing the Democrats to run the show. So Democrats will vote for a majority of whatever they want, whatever Dustin Burrows wants to pass, and they will pass it with 30-something Republicans, with a handful of Republicans who are too cowardly to follow the rules that they set for themselves. And so that's here in the state of Texas. That is how, even though Republicans showed up, Republicans at the ballot box said, we want Republicans to govern this state. We want Republicans to lead the way. The Republicans have decided to abdicate their power, and they are giving Democrats even more power than before when Dade Phelan was in charge. And trust me, Dade Phelan, Chad, you know this, set a very low bar for the state of Texas. I mean, it was not going to be hard to be better than Dade Phelan. And somehow Dustin Burrows was like, hold my beer, I'm going to be worse. And we've seen that he has just used the Democrats Now, it remains to be seen, Chad, what deals he has made with the Democrats, what more deals we're going to see come through that he has made in order to get all of this influence and power and get the Democrats to vote for him. But certainly there were some backroom deals done. Certainly there were some backroom conversations where he said, okay, in exchange for your vote for speaker, I will give you X, Y, and Z. So some of that has yet to be determined. But I mean, you have these Democrats, and as much as they say Democrats don't run the House, we have Democrat vice chairs and we have Democrat chairs of subcommittees. And these Democrats are just completely lawless. They're not operating by the rules of the Texas House, and there's no one there to hold them accountable because you have a Republican who was just elected by the Democrats. It's completely dysfunctional. It's completely unmanageable. And we really have to fix this in these primary elections, or Texas is just going to go blue.
One of the biggest things that I think helped us expose what was going on in the last midterm elections was the prosecution and the persecution of our Attorney General Ken Paxton. You mentioned Mitch. Mitch was his attorney, and now he's in the State House. And I asked General Paxton, I said, was it negative? Was it positive? He said it was one of the most positive things that could have happened because it exposed the corruption that was in the Texas State House. Now, again, I want to reiterate to those of you who may not be citizens of Texas, if this is happening in the Texas State House, you can only imagine what is happening in your state house, particularly if you are a traditionally red state. It's horrible. The deals are being made. This is disgusting, and so many people don't understand how bad it is. And so, to General Paxton's point, he said it was the best thing because it exposed the corruption, and we saw in that election lots of grassroots candidates win that heretofore were not winning because the general public engaged in these midterms or even in these primaries were going out and just voting by the biggest name or the incumbent that had the R by their name. Mm-hmm. I don't want to continue putting people up on a cross like Ken Paxton and exposing the corruption by crucifying people. How do we, without that, avoiding that scenario, how do we open people's eyes? You're doing a podcast called Come and Take It. First of all, how often are you doing that show?
Yeah,
it's relative to Texas politics, but how's that play into opening people's eyes?
Well, so we do it once a week. Every Tuesday, we release an episode where we talk about the issues that not just Texans, but the entire country should care about. Because as you mentioned, Chad, as so goes Texas, so goes the rest of the country. And so, we are talking about things that are happening in the dysfunctional Texas House. We are talking about these Muslim compounds that are popping up here in the state of Texas, run by people who want to enact Sharia law. We're talking about these things that the general Texan who has their head down, you mentioned earlier, the welders, the mechanics, the people who aren't generally involved in Texas politics might hear it and go, oh, maybe I should care about this. Oh, maybe I should get involved in all of these things. So whether it's the impeachment of our great Attorney General Ken Paxton here or some other issue, you've got to open people's eyes to what is happening locally, especially in our school districts, right? That's been another big thing as well, to drive people to the ballot box. But we've got to be exposing the real dysfunction in these quote red states in order to get people to actually care enough to go out and vote in these local elections.
All right, so here we are. You're wondering what might have happened to the show. Well, I don't know if we got struck by lightning or somebody hit a pole, but our power went out. I want to say a very special thank you to my guest, Sarah Gonzalez. She's the host of Sarah Gonzalez Unfiltered on the Blaze, as well as the weekly show, Come and Take It with the Texas Family Project. In summary, let me just say, we've got to get back to focusing on the things that we can control. We've got to make sure that our local elections, our state elections, the midterms, the primaries, those matter. We've got to be participating in those things. What's happening in Washington, D.C., we've done pretty much all we could do thus far, but we've got to do so much more in the days ahead when the opportunity presents itself. The biggest thing we can do, pray for your country, pray for your community, pray for your state. I'm so thankful for voices like Sarah. Make sure that you're following her on social media at Sarah Gonzalez TX. There's no H in Sarah, remember that, and Gonzalez is with an S. Make sure you're following her. And also, if you're listening by way of podcast audio, go to where You can leave a rating and review for the Dinesh D'Souza podcast and leave a 5-star rating. That's what they deserve, as well as a great review. And make sure you are subscribing and sharing both on Rumble and YouTube. Click the like button under the video and put these episodes out on your platforms. The shares matter. Let's grow our voice, folks. That's one of the ways that we get people's eyes open and their heads out of the sand so that we can make a difference in our, well, all of our politics and ultimately our society and our culture. For Dinesh D'Souza, my name is Chad Prather. I'm the host of the Chad Prather Show, Monday through Thursday, as well as the Dear America podcast. I love you. God bless you. Thank you for tuning in.
Subscribe to the Dinesh D'Souza podcast on Apple, Google, and Spotify, or watch on Rumble, YouTube, and SalemNow.com.